All right, so we're gonna tie up kind of a easy go-to pattern called the Bad Hair Day. So yeah, we're starting out with the 1-aught, just straight eye, thread of your choice. I like stuff that doesn't break real easy, so I've been using a lot of that Vivus gel spun, either in a 50 or 100. This is 100 just because I've been tying a lot recently, and I had run out of the 50 at the moment. So just a thread base. I like my flies to last, even if they're a simple one, so just a little touch of super glue will cement that in. I'm going to do a basic fire tiger color pattern for it, so just some yellow going into a nice chartreuse, into kind of a salmony fire orange. Finally, just your standard green, and then I'll probably wrap either some peacock eye stub or this laser dub. It's also got some kind of rusty, was this Nasty Rusty by Solar Synthetics Angel Hair, and then I may throw a little eye on there as well. Start with your yellow, and with this craft fur, kind of a lot goes a long way with a lot of materials. Get our tail section, maybe just, come straight across the ends to level everything out. Toss it on there. This one we're not going to spin around the shank. We just kind of want it right on top there. Just another small clump. So all those guard hairs, I'm actually pulling those out for the tail. Place that guy on there. So we got our tail in there. And then we're going to do our first reverse wrapper, kind of that Popovic hollow tie with bucktail, but we're using craft fur. So get our chartreuse. Again, less is more. I wouldn't be tying anything over, a number 2 pencil in diameter, even less. I'd start with less is more. So Dave says you want to leave all these guard hairs in, because when you tie it in backwards, we're going to tie it in like this, right? And then these are going to fold back over it. But what I found is that, and he probably does this on his videos, he's just not talking you through it because his look really good. But if I pick some of that out on the first clumps that I tie in, I end up getting a better taper because it's not just this big huge mountain right off the bat. So I'll pull out a few, and that's just kind of an eyeball thing after a while. The other thing he does is he kind of puts it all the way on the hook, and then it's nice and on there already, and he doesn't spin it around. I've tried that. It works really well. I actually get a better looking fly that way, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to push it all the way over. So lately I've just been doing kind of 2 loose wraps like that. Use my fingernail right there and kind of pushing down and spinning around just like I would do on any other fly. This is kind of a cool tactic. He calls it funking the hook. You just basically are flicking that eye of the hook, and it kind of spreads the materials naturally around. Cool little pro trick that saw off YouTube. Guys that were tying a lot of reverse bucktail, you just get a hollow pen and just push everything back. Kind of gives you a head start to where you're going. Just kind of work that thread through. And what you don't want to do is tie on top of the craft fur, because you don't want it to lay down. You want it to have a little bit of a shoulder. Something that Dave doesn't do that I like to do, picked up from those guys, tying musky flies, is just doing a little dam. Just a little thread dam. It's got a little bit of a shoulder, but it's not crazy, right? So you can see less is more. You want some of those colors that you're tying on top of to still show through a little bit. Helps with the blend. So we're going to go with our kind of fiery orange. So here's another thing about this is if I tie this long stuff in over and over and over, all that happens is it just completely covers everything and you don't see anything. That looks kind of cool, that wing there. Anyways, not to be distracted. I'm going to pull some more of those guard hairs out. I'm going to level it out. So the thing I was saying was you want to do these kind of short. Like this might even be too long, because even after I tie it in backwards and it flips around, you don't want it all the way to the end. You want to taper it forward. So against your best instincts, at least for mine, I don't want to keep cutting that shorter and shorter, but it's going to look better overall. So put it on top. 2 loose wraps just to grab everything. Spin the material around using your thumbnail, pushing down right where the materials meet the thread, spin everything around. So that looks pretty sparse, but I'm gonna do 2 of them, right? So funk it, move that stuff around, pull it back, get your thread forward. Little, and as you make these dams, they're gonna get smaller until we don't even use one for the front. So that's nice, right? That stuff still shows through. That's why I'm gonna use 2 clumps of this orange here. So I'm going to pull out just a little bit of those under hairs, less than I did the last time. Still kind of long. This one's got a little bit more bulk, just a touch longer. Again, twice real loose around. Spin our materials around the hook shank there until it's all equal. Tight wraps. Funking it. Use our hollow pen, push it back, gives us a good start. Pull our thread forward. Even less of a little dam there. At this point I'm going to add a little bit of flash. Maybe 10 strands or so. Now you want these to be a little bit longer than the very ends of these tails. Just a little bit longer back there. Kind of right on top. 3 turns, right over the top again. And here you can kind of do the same thing that we were doing with the craft fur, just spinning it around that hook shank. You don't want a just big clump of it on there. Don't need to necessarily get it on the bottom. If any real long ones are still in there, you can go in there and trim those off. So that's looking pretty good. So we're gonna add some green there. So when you get to the front of the fly here, you can get a little bit more material if you want, just to give you kind of a bigger bulk, bigger prop. I still pull a little bit of material out. Let's check the length. A little long still for me, so I'm actually gonna cut, straighten the ends and cut maybe. I'm only cutting like a ½ inch at the most off at a time. I just want to see how it's going to stack up. That should be pretty good. So, 2 loose wraps around again. 1, 2. Should be good. Use your thumbnail to spread it around, just pushing down on it and spinning. Funking it. Looks pretty good. Probably 1 more of those guys of the green there. Gonna not pull any of those guard hairs out on this one. This one I will just go straight over the hook eye there. Two loose wraps. And then we're going to just finish with, I think I'm going to use the Senya's Laser Dove in black. What you want to do is just separate it out, just pull it long, stack it back on it itself. Pull it long, stack it back on itself. Do that a few times. think we're gonna kind of go for a bulky head, even though I don't have that much room here in the front, so I'll just do 2 wraps right there, flip it, and then same thing with this, pulling it out, stacking it back on itself, and we'll pop this guy in the bottom here. Two wraps there, fold him back, 2, fold him back, and 2, which is what's nice about this this GSP thread is that you can get it under that material and actually pull back. That's what's nice about having the strength of that thread, is you can do a lot of stuff with it that if I was using like Viva 6/0 or 8/0, it would break for sure. You just can't manhandle it like that. So once I start getting into the bigger sized hooks, size 1, 1/0, 2/0, stuff like that, it's kind of nice to be able to kind of wrench on it a little bit. Yeah, what I'm gonna do is put some eyes on this guy. So I just got some chartreuse, some red ones. Everybody should have this stuff. It's, you know, brush on, zap-a-gaff, which is great for a lot of applications, but putting eyes on is good too. So I'm just gonna touch it right where I think the eye is gonna be, just like 2 times just to get a little base going. I will grab my eye. I'm just gonna drop it on there. I'm not gonna push it real hard, because a lot of times the zap-a-gaff will stick to your finger, and then the eye will, and craft furs everywhere, and it's a cluster. So we're gonna do the same thing on this side. Just a couple touches where we want to place that eye, and just drop it on there. Then here comes, you know, UV Pro Sport Fisher. Use this stuff on just about everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically turn this guy, and I'm going to just coat around that eye. I'm not going to necessarily go over it. If you do, that's fine, but really what I want to do is just make sure that line around the eye is anchored to something, so it's going to have some UV resin. But that's pretty good for that side. Flip it on this guy. This. And yeah, that's basically it. One last thing you can do, you can get yourself a little Sharpie. I saw Dave do this trick, which is kind of neat. It's kind of obvious, but I never did it. I used to take the fly off and then have it like on a surface and mark it, which works fine. But he just kind of holds it here, and then you can kind of get both sides at the same time, and the top. Just go down to reach the tail. Let's just flash into it. So that's it. That is the bad hair day. Pretty simple fly. Great for fishing smallies or anything that eats bait fish. You're not gonna, you're not gonna cry if you stick it in a tree like a changer or something that you spent, an hour or 2 hours on. Just rip it out of there and break it off and have another one on.